Okay, Mick Rooney, Radio Espial, investigative journalist. You will all know that I did a very, very lengthy timeline 2 or 3 weeks back on the GABBY Petito case. Uh, I'm a little bit behind. I just want to bring you up to date on the latest news, and this is in regards to Brian Laundrie's autopsy and the details that were released. I've been kind of caught up in another project that I'm gonna bring you soon in episode, I think it's 16 of the Radio Spoil. But just for now, hopefully short, brief video, just bring you up to date on the timeline and what happened after November the 23rd. And that's what we're looking at here. So 23rd of November, the attorney to the Laundrie parents confirms that Brian Laundrie died by suicide, a gunshot to the head. Look, I've talked about conspiracy theories, I've talked about all the kind of imaginations and ideas and how this case would play out. I've done a lot of murder cases, missing people. Sadly, this has pretty much proven to have played out very much the way we expected it. It's that adage, Occam's razor. And we're seeing it now in this case. When Brian Laundrie, in September, early mid-September, went missing, I think it was reasonable to assume what was going to be the outcome. And that's how it has played out. So on the 23rd of November, and there was a bit of a mishmash that day. The clearly and fairly, the Laundrie parents were informed of the outcome and what had been declared by the autopsy on their son. And in fairness, it was, they had to be told first, but there was a bit of that day a mishmash in how things came out. So the attorney jumped the gun somewhat on it before there was any formal declaration. And the first we knew of it was when the attorney said, quoting, "Chris and Roberta Laundrie have been informed the cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head and the manner of death was suicide. Chris and Roberta are still mourning the loss of their son and are hopeful that these findings brings closure to both families." Now, there's a bit of a nuance in that, brings closure to both families. There are many more questions about what happened in this case. I'm not going to go back through it. I spent 4 hours or more going through the full timeline. Yes, there certainly are an awful lot of things and answers that we still need, but this case, at least for me, investigating it, is very much drawing to a close. What happens after that? Civil cases, where both families want to move on. There are tragically 2 people involved in this that are no longer with us. I want to go through on the 23rd of November the District 12 medical examiner and the statement that he released. It's very limited, and this is one thing we hope that outside of all these experts coming in to this case, that we will have more disclosure later. Whatever happens, civil cases, criminal cases, whatever, that we will, you know, understand more about what exactly happened here. And I'm sure there are an awful lot more details in this case that we still don't know and understand. So, the death of Brian Christopher Laundrie, the District 12 Medical Examiner's Office has completed our investigation into the death of Brian C. Laundrie. The investigation included the following: scene response by medical examiner personnel, complete examination of the recovered skeletal remains, consultation with a forensic odontologist, including dental comparison for identification, consultation with a forensic anthropologist, including skeletal reconstruction, confirmation of the identity of the remains by both dental comparison and DNA analysis. And that was what an awful lot of people were kind of questioning initially when Brian Laundrie's remains were found in the reserve park. You know, well, what about the DNA? And, you know, this gives us information that there were DNA tests. They had enough remains to do DNA tests. And people talked about A-tooth, teeth, dental, and clearly not understanding what dental records were about, and came up with all sorts of crazy stuff. The cause of death has been determined to be a gunshot wound to the head. The manner of death has been determined to be suicide. I understand that people say, how the hell can you determine that it's a gunshot wound to the head? We do not know if a gun was retrieved at the scene where his remains were found or close by it. But when you have skeletal remains, upper, mid and lower skeletal remains, there are ways of identifying if it is a wound inflicted by beating or through you know, somebody is found in a forest, a mountain, and just slowly their body decays over time. I know this might be uncomfortable with some people, but there are ways of examining bones, the skull, and people might say, yeah, but still, how do you know it's a suicide? Look, when someone takes their life by a gun-inflicted wound, it can be relatively easy picked up by examining the bone structure and the entry wound. I'm not going to go into words, but I will be graphic. When those methods are examined, point blank range, caliber, damage to the skull, entry points, we talk about frontal, backward, upward, lower. I can assure you a forensic examiner in an autopsy can decide that the wound was self-inflicted, because they are different to somebody who comes up to you and points a gun at you, you know, there, you know, or shoots you in the back of the head, or, you know, there are ways that it can be identified. Complete signed reports will be on file at the District 12 Medical Examiner's Office in accordance with Florida statutes and at the request of the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI). These reports and other information pertaining to the medical examiner investigation of Mr. Laundrie's death may not be made public or released until law enforcement investigation is complete. And I'm sure law enforcement have also had conversations with the Petito and Schmidt family as to whether they would approve or not approve of more details being released as to the nature of their own daughter's death. And the Laundrie family will also have the same discussions as to their son Brian Laundrie's death, as to whether more details should be made available. I thought this was interesting. Journalist Michael Roos confirms that the gun used in the suicide was reported missing from the Laundrie home in mid-September. We now find out that the FBI and police did a full itinerary of all registered guns to the Laundrie family, and probably when they turned up to seize them knew already what they were expecting to find. When Brian Laundrie's parents reported him missing in mid-September, following the strangulation of his former fiancée Gabby Petito, they turned over all of the firearms in their home to the FBI, except for one that was missing. We still don't know if that gun that was missing is the gun that fired the fatal shot to Brian Laundrie. That is still open. We can speculate. There's probably a high degree of likelihood it is. How he was able to take that gun from the household, knowing that he'd been there for days since his return from Wyoming. Now, a statement from the Smith and Petito family via their attorney Richard B. Stafford followed. The Smith and Petito family have been aware of circumstances surrounding the suicide of the sole suspect in Gabby's murder. Gabby's family will not be making a statement at this time due to the request of the United States Office and the Teton County Prosecutor's Office. The family was asked not to make any comments and let the FBI continue their investigation. The family was also asked to wait for the United States Attorney's Office to make a determination on whether any additional individuals will be charged. When that determination is made, we will have a statement. So the suggestion there is the Attorney's Office is still considering whether further charges or arrests be made. But the fact is that's still a suggestion, and now we're 2 or 3 weeks on and that hasn't happened. I'll put a link again to this timeline document which has all the backup sources to it. Really, that's it. It's a tragic case. I'm not going to pretend that, and I said it at the start, this was never going to end well for either families. And it's pretty much ended the way I expected. Whatever happened while that couple were away on their van life trip, where Gabby was found, the circumstances around Brian Laundrie's involvement, his journey back to Florida, the bizarre circumstances that happened after that, we still don't know, and there are still an awful lot of questions. But at this point, two people are no longer with us, involved in this case, and we continue to surmise as to what exactly happened. And I think it is probably going to take many months, well into next year, 2022, before we find out an awful lot more on this case. For me, I'm not going to do any more updates on this case. I'm already dealing with something else I want to work through in episode 16. A missing person, a very long-term missing person's case, and I want to deal with that. It's an Irish person. In my updates on social media, I'll tell you more about that. I'll put a card or a reference to the 4-hour plus timeline in-depth thing we did there 2 or 3 weeks ago. But for me, as an investigative journalist, there is no more in this case really to move on with. If there are updates, I'll update you. But really, a tragic case. But this case, for me, investigatively, is where it is. There's still many questions. People still want a case of responsibility, who to blame, what about the parents, what's going to happen with them. You know, I see an awful lot of cases, but for me, this case, pretty much from an early stage, once Gabby's body was found and Brian had effectively fled back home and then disappeared, it was reasonable to assume how the play out was going to be. And again, Occam's razor, that is how it has played out tragically. So, join my links. If you don't like the video, that's fine. If you like the video, give it a like. Subscribe if you want to subscribe. The benefit of that, it helps me build the channel, do more stuff, be encouraged. It also helps with all that crazy Facebook algorithms. That's fine if you don't want to do that. This channel is not a monetized channel. I don't do this for money. There's all my time investment is not done for money. I don't earn anything out of this. It's just to clarify facts and share them. As I say, I'll put the link to the timeline, the 4-hour timeline, up on a card or in the description. I'll also put a link to the timeline itself, the document itself. I'll put links to Radio Espial. We do other stuff. We're going to be more concurrently doing true crime stuff. As I say, I'm seriously thinking of doing the Irish Trevor Deely case. His anniversary is up in the next day or two, the 21st anniversary, and I've already prepared a timeline on that, and I'll probably be doing a deep dive into that case, something similar that I did with the GABBY Petito case. So look, that's where it is. Some of this stuff is never pleasant. Some of this stuff never absolutely gives us answers, particularly when the two main people involved are not here and other people around the case are reluctant to talk. I'm well used to that. Thank you again for watching. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, share if you wish. If you don't, that's fine. Take care, and hopefully in the next week to 2 weeks I will have a fairly detailed case that I just touched upon there and mentioned with Trevor Deely coming up. Thank you, take care, and God bless.